right now. I see dead people.
Welcome to Blondes and Booze. You are about to embark on a journey, one that often leads to more questions than answers. But fear not, your host, Krista, Aaron, and Brandy have the experience, the perseverance, and yes, even the gifts to pull back the veil and allow us to glimpse the other side. They will share not only their experiences, but will introduce you to world-renowned researchers and experiencers to help you find answers in the murky waters of what we call the paranormal. Their bonds with each other reach far beyond friendship, resulting in a pull no punches approach to the many subjects they explore. Their goal? To open eyes, hearts, and even minds to what lies on the other side, and the answers residing there.
Hey everybody, welcome. Appreciate everybody being here. How are you, Brandy?
I'm good. I'm glad to be off work for the week. Oh my goodness. I think,
Lucky.
I've been just cutting myself and hurt myself all week. I think it's time to take a rest.
Yeah, I hear you. I gotcha. I got you on that. I want to start off by thanking, we have a new member, Larry Newman. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for becoming our newest YouTube member. So thank you on that. And Brandy, you wanna tell them about tonight?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we got a message short notice. But Seth had an emergency, a family emergency. He was not able to be with us. Our prayers go up to him and his family, hoping everything is okay. We are going to reschedule him as soon as possible. So, unfortunately, they're not going to be on. But we have two fantastic people with us tonight. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to wait and we're going to talk about them in just a minute. But I'm going to run through the channels real quick. Let me run through the channels because I really want to get them up. Of course, on Monday nights, we have Texas Front Porch with Tex and myself. That is 8 p.m. Central. On Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, it's Bob Van Buren with the Van Buren Variety. At 8 o'clock, it's Bigfoot Michigan Rob with Beyond BMR. On Wednesday, 7 o'clock or p.m. I keep getting that confused because I want to say 8 p.m., but it's 7 p.m. It's Jason McLean Questions Everything. On Thursday at 12 p.m. Central, of course, it's Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And guess who? Krista. On Thursday, of course, it's us at 8 p.m. Central with Blondes and Booze. And if you can't get enough or you want to hear a different story because you never know what we're going to come up with, we're back on at 8 p.m. Central on Fridays with Blondes, Booze, and the Woo. And on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central, Tex and Danielle Diva release their newest episode of Infamous Minds.
Very good. Very good. So as Brandy said earlier, Seth did have to cancel and we are rescheduling him in October. So we'll keep you all posted on that. Send some prayers and all that good stuff his way. But like she said, we have two very, very good friends of ours with us tonight. And I'm excited because we're going to talk, maybe a little LBL and maybe a little Werewolf Springs and, things like that. So anyway.
Yeah, I've not been to Werewolf Springs, and that is a location that I really want to get to. I heard there's some crazy stuff that goes on there. I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yep. So I'm going to not waste any time and bring up Mr. D.A. Roberts and Miss Neoma Finn.
Yay!
Both. Well, D.A.
Start wave.
Yeah.
It's nice when you got your favorite people on, it's just kind of like, yay.
Right, right. So DA was going to host with us anyway, and so when Seth does come on, of course we're going to ask DA to come back and co-host with us. But Miss Neoma, she just jumped in right at what I called you at what, like 7:30?
Something like that.
Yeah.
We are so glad to have you.
You can call me Leben because I'm the 11th hour girl.
That's funny. That's funny. Before we go much further, we do have an event that we are all doing together. And
yes, while we're all here.
Yep, along with Robbie Rains and What's Really Out There. So this is coming up in December. And you guys stay tuned because I really think you guys are going to enjoy it. And make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell icons for Neoma Finn, Open to Doubt, DAX Machina, What's Really Out There, and Blondes and Booze. And
yeah, because I mean, when we're doing this, you're really going to need to watch each and every channel to get the full effect of what we're going to be doing. So make sure you get out there and like and subscribe.
Yep. And in the upcoming months, we'll release a little more. We'll release a little more teasers, right, guys?
Yep.
About this much.
Yeah.
Because I'm a tease.
Yeah, that's it. And honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a good time for sure. So
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just talk some like Werewolf Springs.
Let's go into Werewolf Springs. Because I'm excited. I'm excited about the topic because I've never been. I wanted to hear maybe a story or two or something about this. I mean, people are. I think we're missing something there.
Miss Neil was really researched Werewolf Springs more than I have. I've read quite a bit about it, but she's really delved deep. Miss Naomi, you want to give us the background on it?
Sure, I can tell you everything that happened right up into almost to the present. Werewolf Springs is actually a spring that's the real name is Hall Spring. It sits on the southern edge of Montgomery Bell State Park. Montgomery Bell was a man who was known as an iron king of Tennessee. He owned mines and he was a very wealthy man and very well respected. So when they got the park, they named it after him, and that's where Montgomery Bell comes from. Back before, long before it was ever a park in the 1800s, during the Civil War, trains ran through. They ran trains through to move troops. The lines never finished. So a lot of the stories you hear about Montgomery Bell that involve trains, ignore them, because the trains never really got there until probably a decade or so later. The first story that, it's my favorite, that it seems to be legitimate, is there was a farmer, Montgomery Bell, if you look at it, it's sort of a kind of a shape like this sort of park. And over here you have Burns, Tennessee, and over here you have White Bluff, and I believe Dixon is up one or the other corners. Anyway, and this farmer was coming from Burns, and he was headed to someplace just west of Nashville, and I don't really remember the town, but he was headed there in a wagon. He had a servant with him. I don't know if this was a hired man. I know it was post-Civil War, so it wasn't a slave. It was just a person who worked for him in some capacity. And they were headed along the road, and that road is actually now, it's a regular highway now. It runs the border of the southern border of the park. And they were headed along that road. At the time, it was nothing but your typical dirt road. And they began to hear something in the woods, sort of pacing with them. And they thought, well, they were about to be robbed by bandits. So they kind of picked up the pace a little bit, and whatever it was, kept up the pace with them. They didn't hear horses. So the bandits, it wasn't somebody on a horse. This was something running alongside them on what they thought was two legs. And so they picked up the pace a little bit more, and it kept up a little bit more. Now they're in a horse, and I'm sure they were in like a kind of wagon type thing without the cover, but they're going at a pretty good clip, and this thing is still keeping up with them. And they're starting to panic, and they don't know what to do because, they can't get away from this. And this road is not something you want to be traveling along. It's after dark. It's not a safe thing to be going at a dead run, in a wagon, being pulled by their horse. They get to a point where both of them are so panicked that the farmer jumps off the wagon one way and the servant jumps off the other. The farmer goes down under the brush. He rolls down under the brush and he lays there. Whatever was following them was on the side of the road with the servant. And he laid there and listened to this thing tear his servant to pieces. He could not do anything. He knew that whatever it was bigger than he could handle. He didn't have any kind of real weaponry to get rid of it. He probably had a rifle with him, but it may have stayed in the wagon. And of course, the wagon continued on down the road with the horse. All he could do was lay there and listen to his servant absolutely being torn to shreds. And he could hear his servant crying, please, please, stop, get mercy. And there wasn't anything he could do about it until finally he realized, the noises stopped. And all I could hear was the hideous crunching and gnashing of teeth that happen and wild animals eating something. And he lay there until sunrise. And then he got up and he tried to go find a servant and he couldn't find him. So he went to the nearest town. And he went, of course, immediately to the constable or the sheriff or whatever it was. And he reported that what had happened. And so they took a group of men and they went out and they looked. They could not find that servant anywhere. They never found even so much as a piece of clothing from the servant. Well, time passed. More reports like this were coming in. People were getting a lot more spooked. So the people of the town of these around this area decided that they were going to form a posse and they were going to go into the woods and they were going to hunt this thing down and they were going to kill it. So a group of men, they get their guns and they head out into the woods and they have the bright idea of taking a goat with them. There's a clearing right by the spring, by Hall Spring, which is AKA Werewolf Spring. And they stake out this goat and they all get around the clearing, hiding in the brush. And I would like to think they form a semicircle. But I just have this Looney Tunes vision of them all like firing across at each other.
Right.
Anyway.
Rabbit season, duck season.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But they so they all they're all hiding in the brush. It's a cloudy night. They can hear movement. The goat's starting to bleat. It's not very happy. And the clouds move away from what was apparently a full moon as this thing is walking into the clearing. And they all get a clear vision of it. Just briefly, but it's a clear vision of this massive, tall, monstrous wolf-like thing. And they all pull out their guns and they fire on this thing, just bam, 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 until they all unloaded their guns. Of course, in the meantime, the clouds come back and they cover and everybody's basically shooting blindly. So, I mean, that's the kind of panic that this thing instilled, that they were literally willing to shoot blindly. Mm-hmm. And they emptied their rounds. Somebody managed to get a lantern lit. They come into the middle of the clearing. The thing is gone. There's no way it wasn't hit by at least half a dozen bullets, but it's gone. Wow. The goat's gone. And I believe 2 of the men from the posse were gone.
Wow.
It had just picked up whatever was close by and run off. So more time passes, and the legend of Werewolf Springs is becoming more and more prominent. And there was a big game hunter. And this man decided, I can hunt buffalo and I can hunt elephants and I can hunt lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, I can certainly go there and I can kill this big wolf thing. So he comes to Werewolf Springs, Burns, I'm sure at the time. And there's a cabin there, probably maybe on the Hall homestead somewhere along there. And so he gets the cabin, and he spends his days going out looking for signs, and he doesn't see anything. And he spends his evenings, he can see the clearing, the same clearing where these guys all had their little goat experience. But he can see this from his front window of his cabin. So he's literally sitting in the cabin, looking out the front window, watching this clearing where this thing has been known to go through. And night after night he watches, and about the third or fourth night, here it comes, walking through the clearing. Well, he's got this big game rifle, so he puts it up and he takes aim and he fires, and it didn't do anything. All it did was make this thing angry. And it comes charging at the cabin at him, and he fires 2 or 3 more rounds, and it just comes still barreling at him, and it's just furious, and it just like rips the door right off the cabin. In the meantime, this big game hunter has turned into the biggest pussy on the... I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. Keep going, Neoma.
The biggest
Sleep.
Sorry. He turns into the biggest scaredy cat on the planet, and he climbs up into the rafters, and he's up in the rafters, and this thing's circling around on the floor underneath him, and it's like trying to reach up, and it's grabbing him, and it's jumping, and it's just missing him by inches. And every now and then he kind of gets where he can shoot at it, and nothing, absolutely nothing is affecting this thing. And he's terrified, and it's the whole night, this thing's circling under him, and it's jumping up and trying to get him. And he's running out of bullets. He gets down to 2 bullets. Now he knows he's going to shoot one more time at this thing. And he knows if that doesn't work, that last bullet's for himself. And he gets ready to take aim. And just as he's taking aim, the sun cracks over the horizon. This thing looks over, and it runs out of the cabin and disappears. So that is the 3 really big, amazing stories about Werewolf Springs. There is another story, and I really have never been able to get the full details on it, but there was a little girl, I assume she was a member of the Hall family, and she was sent out to the spring. And, you know, when you hear the word spring, you have this vision of these like crystal bubbling waters and, you know, cold and refreshing. I've seen pictures of this spring, and that ain't it. But she was sent out to get a bucket of water, and she didn't come back right away. And after a while, she didn't come back, and she didn't come back, and she didn't come back. And so her mom and dad go out looking for her. They get down to the spring, and all they find is the bucket. The little girl was never seen again.
Wow.
You know, if you look at Montgomery Bell State Park, there's actually 3 lakes there. And it's a very, very well manicured park. We're not talking LBL here at all. This isn't rustic. This is high class. There's a golf course. There's a swimming beach. They've got an amazing, in fact, they just I think they redesigned this, or maybe they built a new one, convention center that I believe I'm going to be at October 14th. I hope you guys are. And, it's going to be, I mean, it's just a really nice area. They have RV parking, they have tent camping, everything you could imagine. Beautiful. And the trails are really well maintained, but it's centered around 3 lakes. And on the South Lake, on the far edge, which would be the southwestern edge of the southern lake, it's cliffs, it's hillsides, and there are caves in those hillsides. And they've gone in and they've explored those caves, and they have found animal bones in there. They've found like cow bones and horse bones. And that's accepted because a lot of times back in the day when people would have large livestock die and, you know, it wasn't something they could eat for whatever reason, they would take the body up and they drop it in those caves. But what they couldn't explain were the human bones that they found in there. And so it's been an ongoing thing. They still say that if you're walking through the park and you get down by the spring, don't be surprised if you hear howling. Don't be surprised if you feel like something's following you, because there is definitely something that still lives down around that spring.
See, that was going to be my question to you, with it being so built up and so I guess what it sounds like, more so residential. Do you still feel like something is there?
Well, I can tell you this much. I live, I think I live about 60 or 70 miles east of Montgomery Bell. I may not live that far east. It's just down the road from me, literally.
Mm-hmm.
But my neighborhood, I mean, nothing in this part of Tennessee until you get really into the Nashville area and you get to the Sumner and Davidson and Rutherford and those counties, they're packed. I mean, they're like shoulder to shoulder packed like sardines there. But as you spread out from those counties, they're nice towns, but they're not really, they're still pretty well spread out. And I can tell you that in my neighborhood, which is the road I live on, is about 1/4 of a mile long. It's probably got 8 houses on it. I mean, I can see my neighbors. I can stand on my porch and talk to my neighbor on their porch next door. But we're not, our houses are still, you could put a house between my house and each of my neighbors' houses. So we're kind of spread out on this road. And admittedly, we have, in our backyard, we have what is like a gully or a little hollow. And on the other side of that is all pasture. Across the road, they have those houses. We always joke because all the trees migrated to our side of the road. The houses on the other side of the road have almost no trees, but they have nothing but pasture behind them. And even so, you get to the end of our road, you go this way and that way, and there's still more houses. And yet, and DA will attest to this because it's usually at 3:00 in the morning, he gets a message from me. I'm scared. There's something in my backyard.
She's had stuff hit her house, and they heard something screaming in the woods behind their house. On one of the Small Town Monsters documentaries, they heard the same scream.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
So do you believe it could be a Dogman, or do you believe maybe a Bigfoot? What do you believe it is?
Well, I was always inclined to believe the slapping was Bigfoot. Nick Valente kind of convinced me that it may not have been Bigfoot. And I have to say that when I was going out and putting cayenne pepper on the side of my house, that did calm down quite a bit. And then my husband retired almost 2 years ago now, and it's almost non-existent. Every now and then I'll hear it. But I mean, I was telling our roofer, we had a tree fall in our house last spring, and we've been dealing with repairs all summer. And our roofer is originally from Henderson, and we were talking about what I do. Which interestingly, he said, well, I know a guy who wrote a book about Bigfoot. He says he saw a Bigfoot. And I'm like, oh, from Henderson. And his name is, go ahead, anybody? And he was like, so he was really surprised to know that Barton Nunley was but anyway, so we were talking about it, and I was, I was slapping the table to explain to him, and I can't do it here because I'll knock everything over, but I mean, it's a big bang. And my husband, Brad's sitting across the table from me, looking at me like I'm insane because he's never heard that. It never happened when he was home. It only happened on the nights because he's a truck driver, and it only happened when he was on the road. Hence the messages to DA, the only friend I have who's up in the middle of the night with me.
The night owl.
Yeah. But interestingly, that scream that happened, it happened just, gosh, has it been 2 months now, DA? It's probably been about a month and a half.
Yeah, getting close to 2 months.
And we were, what had happened was we had a power outage, and it, middle of summer, Tennessee, it's 110 degrees at night. We don't have screens on our windows. And frankly, from what I've had happen around this house, I'm not that big on leaving windows open around here anyway. Right. Not that the glass protects me, but it does give me a certain security blanket.
Right.
And
even if it is a false sense of security.
I know, right? But anyway, definitely a false sense of security. But about 1:00 in the morning, I think we peeled ourselves off the sheets one too many times. And Brad gets up and he says, I'm going outside. I can't take this. And of course, I'm like, yeah, I'll be right out there with you. So I grabbed a pair of shoes. He heads out. I head out to the front door. And as I'm walking out, every dog in our neighborhood within probably about a 2-mile radius is just going bonkers. Now, this happens a lot around here. I'd say it probably happens on average about at least once a month. The dogs will just go crazy, howling and barking. But I sat down and I said, how long has that been going on? And he says, about a minute. And he no sooner got those words out of his mouth than we heard. Now today when Craig was getting him to describe it to him, my husband, Mr. Minimalist, is kind of playing it down. But that thing was louder than any dog could have been. It was deeper. It was clearly much larger. And it was moving at us at a high rate of speed. And I said to Brad, we got to go in the house. We got to go inside right now. I've never been so overwhelmed with the fear. Like, I knew if I remained right there in that seat, I was going to die. And that was just 6 weeks ago. Now, also, I have to point out that where we live, if you go northeast of us, not too very far, you come to I can't remember the name of the county, but just about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, there were livestock that were attacked on a farm. They killed a couple of miniature horses and I believe a cow or something and the family dog. And although the DNR showed up and said, oh, this was all done by humans with knives, the sheriff said, this was not knives. This was not human beings. This was not a big cat. This was canid in nature, and I am not going to accept that. And it became a big battle in the news. And that is actually not very far from where I live the other way. And of course, just beyond, if you go to Montgomery Bell and head north, you're going to end up basically in the LBL. And we all know what goes on there. So you look at where I'm at, and we're no more or less populated than most anybody else around this area. And we have a lot of activity. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So DA, have you been to Werewolf Springs yet?
Not yet. Robbie and Doc and I, we're planning an expedition, hopefully maybe before spring.
Awesome.
We're wanting to get down there and spend a few days traipsing around. It's a matter of coordinating all our schedules. So that's something we're planning on doing, and we want to get back in there and spend a few days and see what we can find.
Mm-hmm. That'd be awesome. Just let everybody know, we're dropping DA's link, Miss Neoma's link, and Robbie Rain's link, because you're going to want to subscribe to all of these channels so you can get to the main event in December. So just an FYI. Reminding everybody. Yeah, you want to tell them about your encounter at the LBL?
Well, LBL, I had several strange things happen. I had an actual visual sighting, broad daylight of a Dogman, but I had some other really freaky stuff happen. I was supposed to be meeting Nick Valente at the time we were both with the North American Dogman Project. We've both since kind of gone our own way on now, but at the time Nick and I were going to meet there, and I beat him there by about 2 days. We got there and set up, and my wife will tell you I'm an idiot. She said I should have waited for Nick, but I've never been that guy. I just went into North LBL by myself and was taken around, and I've had several people tell me it wasn't the best idea I've ever had. And in retrospect, probably not the best idea I've ever had, but I did get some interesting activity. I filmed quite a bit of footage while I was in there, and didn't ever catch anything on film. But there's one video. You can go to my channel, and it's on the big LBL compilation video. I was shooting at Nickel Springs, at Nickel Cemetery, and it was just me. I had my camera set up on a tripod, and I was talking to the camera. And if you watch the video, you can hear something like crunching leaves, and you'll see me kind of keep doing this number because I could hear it walking to my left. I'm like, finally, I paused the camera. I'm like, hey, who's back there? I thought maybe there's somebody walking through the woods. I didn't get anybody to answer. So I finished shooting the video, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I just headed out into the woods. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go find this. I don't, if there was somebody out there messing with me, I'm going to find out who it was. But I couldn't find anybody. Couldn't find anybody in the woods. And then I heard it moving again on the far side of the cemetery, and that's when I realized, I'm significantly lacking in firepower. I'm here alone, and I have no cell service. Might not be a good time to get in the van and go on my way.
Right.
And that was at right around dusk. But later that night, I went down to Demumbers Bay, which is, you guys have been to Demumbers Bay. It's
Yes.
kind of a creepy area all by itself. But I went down there about 2:00 in the morning. There wasn't anybody down there, nobody camping or anything. And I pulled my van kind of on that little boat launch ramp that goes down to the water. And I got out and I walked down that little ramp to the edge of the water, and I was looking for tracks with my flashlight, and I didn't see anything. But LBL at night is really pretty quiet. I didn't hear a lot of animal sounds. I could hear like crickets and stuff. So I headed down following the shore to the left off the boat ramp, and I went back 50, 60 yards, and I was pretty much just water and trees. That's all that was around me. And for whatever reason, I decided it was going to be a good idea that I would try playing on my phone. I played a dying rabbit call, a predator call that you would use to call in coyotes. I used to hunt coyotes when I was younger. So I decided to play it, and acoustics are odd over water, especially at night. For having no Bluetooth speaker or anything hooked up, it really, that noise carried quite a ways. And like as soon as I started playing it, I started hearing something approaching me from behind me from 3 different directions in the woods, and it was coming quick. And I'm like,
oh no,
this is probably not a great place to be. So I hustled back down on the edge of the water, got to the van, and jumped in the van, fired it up, threw on the headlights, and backed up that hill and into the driveway and turned around. And as my headlights played out across the trees, there were 6 sets of eyes watching me. I'm like,
wow,
time to go.
Seriously, like you could have been a 411.
Yeah, easily could have been. And I was a little shook by that. But then the next day Nick got there, and we pretty much traipsed all over the place, checking places out. But on our last day there, I was there for a week. On our last day, we were again back at Demumbers Bay. And as you leave Demumbers Bay, there's kind of a concrete slab bridge with a slough that runs kind of off into the trees. And there was one guy fishing on that bridge as we passed over it. And Nick has a Hummer H3. And we crossed over the bridge and waved at the guy, and he just kind of did one of these numbers. He was like, that's about all he did. But as we're heading across that little slough, we start looking on both sides of the road. We were doing about 3 or 4 miles an hour, just creeping along.
Right.
And what we were looking for is those primitive campsites that are set back in the woods, because there are no campsites where you can hook up like RVs and have electricity and stuff in that whole area. It's all primitive campsites. So what we were looking for is like if we could catch a glimpse of color back in the trees, maybe find an abandoned campsite or just anything like that.
Right.
And we were maybe 150, 200 yards at the most past that low water bridge coming back toward the trace from Demumbers Bay. And I was watching the passenger side, and Nick was watching the driver's side, and we were going real slow. The road's narrow and there wasn't any traffic. And as I was like turning my head, I thought I saw something, but it really didn't click what I was seeing. And I panned past it. And as we were like still kind of creeping ahead, and I was turning my head, I noticed that it turned its head to look with me. As I was going by, and when just much like every deer I've ever got deer hunting, that movement keyed in, and I turned right back and looked at it, and standing with its arm against a tree, just sitting there absolutely still, was a completely black Dogman. It was about 6.5 feet tall, completely black. It had a head like a wolf, but the snout was more blunt, like a mastiff snout or a not a German Shepherd, more like a Mastiff or a Rottweiler, like a Rottweiler snout, more blunt and wide. And of course, I'm punching Nick in the shoulder and telling him to look, and he hits the brakes, and then he looks over. And Nick got to see it for about 10 to 12 seconds, and I probably got 15 to 20 seconds of just that's what I'm looking at. It wasn't like I saw it and it took off. I had a good long span where I was looking right at this thing, and then it turns to take off, and there was a little ravine that dropped down about 30 yards from where it was standing. And it didn't just run straight. It had this weird loping bound. It kind of sprang to the right, sprang to the left, sprang to the right again, and then went right down that ravine. And it was incredibly fast. Completely black, no other color on it. Just, it was completely black. Had it not moved, I never would have seen it. So Nick throws it in park. We jump out and go running out there, and the leaf litter was thick enough we really couldn't find any tracks, but you could see indentations where the leaf litter had been disturbed. And we could hear it smacking through the tree branches down in that ravine. And it would have taken ropes to go down after it. I mean, there was no way either of us were climbing down after it. Mm-hmm. So I go back over to the tree where I saw it, and how I got the estimate of its height. I guessed it to be about 6.5 feet tall. As I'm 5'10", between 5'10" and 5'11", and I could put my hand on the tree in the same spot roughly where its hand was. I could put my hand right up there, but it was like, if you were to lean against a wall, it would be uncomfortably high. I could reach the spot, but it was above my head. It was more, so I estimated this thing was about 6 or 8 inches taller than me. So I guessed about 6.5 feet tall. It wasn't massive. It wasn't really broadly built. It was built more lean, like a runner. But it definitely had the hawk hind legs, and it was incredibly fast.
Wow. Well, you hear so many reports. And, I watched part of your show last night. I had a meeting for the first part, but, you were talking about, it doesn't matter if it's day or night. You had yours in daylight, War Criminal that's in chat. He had a Dogman sighting at the LBL. His was at night. Well, kind of the middle of the night. It doesn't matter when these things come out. I mean,
Neoma saw one in LBL in broad daylight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 just in broad daylight. So people, if you're in the LBL during the day, pay attention to your surroundings for sure.
And don't forget to look up, because it is not uncommon for large predators to hide in the trees.
Yeah. And Brandy and I have a problems with looking up. We're just looking in front,
Yeah. We're training ourselves to look up. I mean, because we're missing so much, I think, just by looking through the trees and looking on the ground. I think we're missing some things that we probably could have seen the last time we were out there.
We're planning on being back in LBL in March or April, somewhere in that time frame. I think March is what we're planning. And I'm going to take a page out of Shane Carpenter's book. I've got an old gimbal that I'm going to mount my GoPro to and mount it to my backpack. That way I've got, something that's fairly stable filming behind me as we're in the woods.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, go back and watch DA's show from last night. He had Greg Ogles, who's a friend of ours, and we're going to be doing a project with him next year at the LBL. Us and DA and Robbie and Doc and I believe Adam Davies. So
not me. I'm not in that group.
Neoma's like, nope, not me.
No, I actually plan on going up there the night after we do the Montgomery Bell thing. I plan on going up to LBL.
Wow.
That's
wow. You staying the night, or are you just passing through?
I'm just going to hang out as late as I can which for me lately is till about 5 o'clock in the morning. Wow. And then I'll head home. I'm too close to make the excuse of staying. I live too close to it. You know what I'm saying? That seems silly to drive for an hour and pack and unpack. So
you know what though? Their cabin rentals are super cheap. Mm-hmm. They're in LBL. They really are. So if you're, they got something open, it's worth just going in and crashing.
I mean, they
have
the basic necessities. They have the basic necessities. They have a bed in 4 walls. So
you need to
there you go.
You need to take your own bedding for sure.
Mm-hmm. And my own barbecue sauce scented perfume. Yeah.
That's right.
Make sure you get the sweet and spicy Sweet Baby Ray's.
I will. I'll remember that. DA and Nick Valenti and I had a running gag about that for the longest time. They were going to meet me at the LBL and I got to be the bait. Nick was going to bring barbecue sauce to slather me in.
There you go. I thought about more, somebody, pick out somebody you don't like and put bacon grease all over them
Yeah.
and put a tree
Yeah,
out.
I'm
we
pretty
talked
sure
about
that's what
that
Nick
last
was
weekend.
thinking.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to reload his own shotgun shells, and he had shotgun shells that he called booger rounds, and they were
wow.
bacon fat and rock salt.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
my goodness.
grandfather once shot
Yeah.
a chicken thief in the backside with a shotgun full of rock salt.
My
Right.
dad hit a guy in the
Trouble.
seat of the pants and was messing with our hogs. We used to
Yeah.
raise hogs. He shot the guy right in the butt with a double barrel shotgun loaded with rock salt.
Yeah, so my grandpa did. Right in the
Yeah.
backside.
So, DA, I know you said you visited Nichols Cemetery at the LBL. Did you visit any other cemeteries while you were there?
I pretty much hit every cemetery I could find. I know there were the ones I didn't get, but basically I covered in the week I was there. I would, and for a good chunk of that, like I said, I was by myself. You know where the big highway kind of separates LBL in half?
Yes.
Yep.
I basically covered everything, every side road off the trace from there to Grand Rivers. Pretty much every road I could find, I wandered down it.
Gotcha. Very cool. What about you, Miss Neoma? You've been to some of the different cemeteries out there?
No, I have not. I've been the ones that are on the main road, they don't really count. When I go to the LBL, generally I am with my husband, the biggest skeptic on the planet, who is like, "You're going to make me do what? I don't think so. I'm going to take a nap now." And
Right.
so we don't do a lot of exploring together. I'm really excited to go this time because I love my husband, but he's not coming with me. My son is, and my son's about as dumb as I am. So it'll be good.
I think I would like to get a map of all the cemeteries in that area and just
Well,
start checking them off.
War Criminal just said at the visitor center they sell a cemetery book with all the graves and locations. And then
we need to get one of those and just start checking them off.
Anna says she's got a cemetery map, so that's really cool.
I'm planning on picking up a copy of that next time I'm there. I've got one of the massive that you can buy at the visitor center. One of the massive unfoldable LBL maps. It's back here with all my other crap over here on my shelf.
Do you?
Yeah, I think
let me ask you.
I definitely need one.
Ask you food for thought. So out of everything you hear out there, you hear of Dogman encounters, you hear of Bigfoot encounters, and you hear of the missing people. Do you think they're because of the Dogman, in your opinion, or would you say because of the Bigfoot, or maybe a little both?
It's hard to say with any degree of absolute certainty what exactly is taking people. But for my money, my money's on the Dogmen. I think I wouldn't say the Bigfoot are more than capable of it, but I think the Dogmen are far more predatory in nature. Whereas Bigfoot's diet tends to be like large bears, they're omnivorous. I think the Dogmen are just straight up carnivores.
Right, I would agree. And just
I feel like carnivores.
I know there's a lot of people that's gonna throw hate at me, but I really feel like Dogmen, they are just out there to do nothing but like eat people and things. There's nothing nice about them. I have not personally heard any eyewitness accounts, of them being friendly. Even people that don't get hurt, you hear claims of like a smirk or something they give them, and so to me that's that's not up to any.
Yeah, there's always some type of aggression in the story that they seem aggressive in some way.
In the bulk of the Dogman encounters stories that I've taken from people, the word hellish or demonic comes up all the time. People are like, this thing was terrifying. It was like a hellhound. And so it's always described as a frightening experience. There's never the stories that you get from people that talk about Bigfoot trading gifts with them. Right. Or I even read a story about a logger who dropped a tree on his leg and a Bigfoot moved the log. You don't hear that with Dogman, but I do think there are times when you could run almost nose to nose with one and it probably wouldn't come after you. I mean, I was up in Rocky Mountain National Park with some buddies, and I rounded a corner in a trail and got close enough to a grizzly bear I could have popped it on the nose. I mean, it was like 3 feet away. I could have just went boop like I do to my dog all the time.
Yeah.
And
I bet
but
that bear would have loved you for that.
it wasn't hungry, fortunately, and didn't. Clearly, fat guy wasn't on the menu because I wasn't outrunning him. Not at that range. If he had wanted me, he had me dead to rights.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
well, there it is. Okay.
Like, oh, this one looks like he's probably high in cholesterol. Yeah, I don't want that one. You need to give me a nice lean jogger. I got to watch my fat intake.
Right. So there's a question here I'm going to put up real quick. Kevin Bode asks, is a Dogman born or made from victims? What do you guys think?
As far as how they're created, it's hard to say. But the lore on Dogman, of course, the word Dogman itself wasn't even coming around until the late 90s. It was coined by a radio station DJ up in Michigan. But when they start talking about Wolfman or werewolf sightings, they go back a long time. And of course, the term you really want to use is cynocephali. The cynocephali, which means dog-headed creature or dog-headed person, have been encountered as far back as the Greek and Roman empires. Both the Greeks and the Romans, including Alexander the Great, mentioned in their journals about encountering these dog-headed warriors and fighting them. And the Catholic Saint Christopher is known as the dog-headed saint. In a lot of Catholic iconography, he's shown with the head of a dog. And supposedly, when he performed his first miracle, he was cured by God and made fully human. But he's known as the dog-headed saint.
Wow.
I want to say something. I've been researching this lately because I get really frustrated when I hear everybody automatically give. And I'm not cutting down Linda Godfrey, not one little bit, because I just think she was a fantastic person. But I get frustrated when people automatically attribute her with the expression Dogman. And yes, the Steve Cook, the DJ, did come before her. But I've been researching this lately, and I discovered in 1939 in Wexford County, Michigan, there was an attack on a man there who described himself as being attacked by a bunch of dogs. One of the dogs stood up on two legs. And that is the very first time that anybody ever wrote the word dog man down. I've always thought it was Steve Cook. Exactly what DA said. I think I may even have been the one who gave him that information. But just recently, I found a thing about a 1939 attack by a pack of wild dogs on a man who referred to described one of the dogs as standing up on two legs, and that was when the word dog man was actually coined. Not ever used generally. Steve Cook, I think, found that story and based his song off of it, and he's the one who definitely popularized the term. But it actually goes all the way back to 1939. Prior to that, 1887, same area, two lumberjacks were working and they saw one in the woods. But I don't believe that they were the ones who referred to it as a dog man.
There's a graveyard in Oklahoma with multiple victims in the graveyard, and on their gravestone said "murdered by human wolves."
Wow!
Oh, where's that at?
Yeah, I want to go there again.
I've read about it. I haven't been to it yet. That's one of those places I'm going, but I'll get you guys the links. I'll find it for you.
Yeah, because
it says murdered by human wolves.
Wow.
I'd like to see that.
I've seen pictures of the gravestones. It is like chiseled into the stone.
That's so interesting.
I'm gonna write that down. Wow.
Yeah, no kidding.
In fact, while we're talking, I'll look that up right now.
Yeah. As far as food and stuff like that at the LBL, it's plentiful because, we personally, I know that night that War Criminal had his Dogman encounter, and then Letitia and Anna and Michelle had, they described it as like a miniature Mothman. This was the same night, but the animals were out in full force, which was really, really weird. Like deer were all over the road, and I didn't see any, but War Criminal said there was snakes all over the road, and So food, I think, is plentiful there, especially because they have the bison.
Mhm.
You know, they have all of that stuff there too. So, and they say there's a lot of wild hogs. However, we've never seen a trace of wild hogs there myself.
I've not even seen
Ju-
any tracks, roots, nothing, just nothing. I
The-
don't know where this is coming from.
The human
honestly,
wolves
but,
gravestones are in Konawa Cemetery in Konawa, Oklahoma. Konowa.
Wow, I'm gonna have to check that out because
Yeah, I want to see that.
yeah,
You know, because the more I travel to Oklahoma, I mean, it just is piquing my interest, and it's like I just want to go back. I keep wanting to go back.
yeah,
Not during tornado season, but I want to go back.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Tornado
crazy.
season may not be it.
It's crazy stuff out there, man. And on the ghost side of things, now you know there are 227 cemeteries out there, and Brandy and I had some weird things happen at it was actually Mount Pleasant Cemetery there at the LBL.
But we're going to talk about that after the break because now we're over 51 minutes. And so we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you, DA. I just got it. But in the meantime, you know, like I said, Seth Breedlove unfortunately had a family emergency. He wasn't able to be with us tonight. We are going to reschedule him in October. If we have to nail his feet down, we're not really going to care, but we're going to do it. So anyway, anybody else for something to go for 30 seconds?
Nope. Just be sure to tune in to all the channels we've been posting. Lily Pond has been wonderful in posting everybody's channels because we do have an event coming up in December, and you're going to have to watch all 4 channels to get the gist of it. So
yes, and thanks, Chris Nichols, for the sticker. We appreciate you.
yes, absolutely. So we'll be back in 5 minutes so we can say goodbye to the radio stations, and stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate it. Real quick shout out, Larry Newman. He became the newest member of our Blondes and Booze YouTube channel. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And to Chris Nichols, we definitely appreciate that too. So
one thing I wanted to mention is we did have some content last weekend that we were going to upload to our members and other things, but all I can say is this: we can't release anything just yet. So we'll have to wait on that content, everyone. So sorry, but it'll come soon.
Yeah, just stay tuned. So there's a couple questions here, a couple interesting comments here. Jonestead Farms, she talked about her and Michelle, they found a large print in the LBL, and they did.
Yes.
Actually, Anna, she sent me the picture of it, and it's pretty good. And I don't remember what cemetery she said it was in, but it was taken there at the LBL, and it's definitely a Bigfoot print, you know, the way it to me.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that's what it is. I mean,
Robbie Raines found a track in South Carolina of a canine print that was 6.5 inches across.
Right.
Wow.
That's a big canine.
That's big.
That's big.
Yeah. Maybe one of you guys can answer this. Raymond asked, I wonder if anyone has gone 411 from the area, like the LBL.
LBL doesn't get reported as missing 411. The missing 411 concentrates on national parks. While the National Park Service does monitor and administer LBL, it's considered a public recreation area and doesn't fall under the 411.
Yeah, gotcha. And then Chris Nichols, if you email Brandy and I at blondesandbooze@gmail.com, we'll get back with you.
Or just call me. Just call me. He got my phone number. Just call.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one that was with us this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Little Patty asked, any black dog stories?
I know the Black Shuck story, but that's in England.
Yeah.
Well,
so nothing
I
from
think
the LBL or...
I think the black dog stories tie very closely into hellhound stories. There's a hellhound story from here in Missouri. They called it the Nixa Hellhound, and it's about 10 miles from where I'm sitting right now. This thing would kill livestock and chase horses, and with riders, obviously. But it was seen for years and years, and as far as I know, there hasn't been a sighting in the last 40 or 50 years. But it was seen for decades out in the woods by Nixa. I'm hoping I can find some folks who might have actually been there, because it's pretty long ago. But I've been digging into that for a while. And a lot of black dog sightings, I think, may overlap with Dogman sightings, because on a good number of Dogman sightings that I've taken, people describe the Dogman approaching on all fours. And then as the thing stops and starts to get up, they hear a popping sound as it stands up. And I think it's able to change the morphology of its hand to where it can run much like a regular canine on all fours. But people that have seen the hands of a Dogman have described the fingers and thumb being very spindly, like a raccoon's hands.
Well, how many stories have you heard that, they talk about hellhounds? Okay, now hellhounds are described to have charred fur, of course, pure black, charred fur, and red eyes. Do you think that they may be misidentifying these things? They could be Dogmen, that they're not charred; they're probably just matted.
It's possible. I mean, even the Ozarks Howler, the Ozarks Howler is described as being a massive canine. The only real difference is that it's described as having horns. Whereas most hellhound stories, they don't say anything about it having horns. The Lakota have a legend of a beast they call the Shunkawarakan, which William Nighthawk and I talked about. And we think it may have some bearing on the hellhound story as well, that it's at least a variant of the same kind of creature.
Yeah, because when I think of horns, I think of more of a Wendigo type.
No, these are more like a goat horns. The Ozark Howler's horns are described like a goat.
Yeah. Yeah. What area was the Ozark Howler?
It's been sighted all across the Ozarks. The Ozark Plateau runs from just south of St. Louis to basically northeast Texas. The Ozarks is a big area. Teddy Roosevelt was a member of a secret society that was put in place to protect the Ozark Howler, and supposedly the Ozark National Forest was set aside as a preserve for the Ozark Howler.
What was the name of that society, DA?
The Secret Order of the Hoo-Hoo, which is a local strange name for the dog for the howler.
That's interesting.
It's a legit secret society. It still exists.
It is, yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about weird names of secret societies. Think about the Odd Fellows. Come on, I mean, it's just like they're odd. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how would one go about becoming a member of the Hoo-Hoo?
From what I found, the only way you can be inducted into the order is, number one, you have to work in some capacity in the timber or forestry industry, like a park ranger or.
Oh man!
And then you have to be invited. It's invitation only.
Dang.
Well, Brandy, making cabinets doesn't count.
But see, I do. I work with trees. Come on.
They have a museum, and supposedly their headquarters is in a little town in Arkansas. I can't remember the name of the town. I'll Google it.
That's interesting.
I'll have to say, hey. I'll call them up and say, hey, make an exception. I work with trees.
Hey, I'm good with that. Sorry.
Miss Neoma's tickled.
I would call him up and I'd be like, God forgive me, but I'd be like, hey, I have a Hoo-Hoo.
What have you been drinking tonight?
Oh my God. I'm sorry, but the first time that I was watching DA's show and they were talking about it, and I had the same reaction as I'm having tonight. It is a what? Woo, woo, hoo, 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 on a woo-ha, hoo-ha. I'm sorry. Oh, help me, Lord. I'm sorry.
Somebody slap happy tonight.
A little bit.
I haven't slept much lately.
Little Patty says you guys broke Neoma.
She's experiencing a full-blown mirthquake.
Yeah. Well, I'm fragile anyway. I'm easily broken, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I gotta stop crying now. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just some things they get you like that.
They do. We elected that man president.
Oh boy.
Stop it.
The headquarters and museum for the Concatenated Order of the Hoo-Hoo is in a little town called Guiden. I can't remember if I'm pronouncing it. It's in Arkansas. Where's it at? Yeah, it's in a little town called Gurdon. Gurdon. Okay. Gurdon, Arkansas. Which is about 7 hours from me. I'm planning on taking a road trip down there, see if I can find anything out.
Become a Gurdon hoo-hoo.
See if we can find the hoo-hoo.
Well, if you really want to crack up, the hierarchy of the order is called the Supreme Nine. It consists of the Snark, the Senior Hoo-Hoo, the Junior Hoo-Hoo, the Scrivnoter, the Bojum, the Jabberwock, the Custocation, the Archinoper, and the Gurdon.
And what is the symbol for the hoo-hoo? I believe it was a cat.
It looks like it's a cat, yeah. The black cat.
Oh, it's a cat!
With its tail curled in a figure of a nine.
Wow.
So apparently founded in 1892.
So if anybody from the Order of the Hoo-Hoo.
Two U.S. presidents have been members.
Could you imagine putting that on your resume?
We are not making fun of your organization. We're not.
No. Please don't send any laser beams down on me.
It's it's just one of those. Who made that up? Gosh.
I'm telling you what, they were drunk. I don't care what anybody says. They were sitting around, they were doing shots that night. They had to be.
They had the tequila out. The good stuff.
Oh, my ribs hurt.
Oh, that's funny.
Forgive me. I'm sorry. See, this is why nobody ever lets me come on their show, because I lose
it. Okay. All right.
Text that. So what I'm hearing is there are members in the hoo-hoos.
It still exists today.
That's what you're hearing.
Yep. Don't mess with the snark. Don't mess with the snark. That's all I'm saying.
They have chapters in the U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and South Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a big group then, seriously.
Yeah.
Yes, they've had members that were two former presidents that were members.
Right. Wow.
Teddy Roosevelt, and I believe Hoover was the other one.
Interesting.
And we elected them. The people of the United States said, "Oh, let's put a hoo-hoo in office." Okay, I'm sorry.
I mean, forget the Illuminati. Just forget the Illuminati. Yeah. Let's just go.
You think it's a fiendish plot to take over the world by the hoo-hoos?
The hoo-hoos shall rule the world.
That sounds like a really good video game.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Oh my God, Tech.
You probably shouldn't put that one up on the screen.
No, I'm not. We'll go to that one.
We won't put what Nick set up on the screen, but I almost said that a minute ago and had to stop myself.
To quote Doc, I got the vapors.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I declare.
That's funny.
Feel a little warm.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Me either.
Yeah.
We're all silent. We're all trying to calm down.
Fortunately, the first time that DA talked about that, I was only in chat.
She gets tickled every time we talk about it.
I didn't help it.
Whether we've talked about it, 5 times or 50 times, she giggles like this every time.
You look at her; she can't stop.
I wish I could. I'm sorry. I just find it hugely funny that grown men would name their society a
She couldn't even finish the sentence.
And we could go all night on this.
I know. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
Good thing this
How did we go from like Hellhounds, Dogman to Who's?
It's not my fault.
I'm going to blame this on DA. He started that. He started it.
I wasn't going to mention the name until she's like, tell him the name.
No, well, I mean, you can't not tell him that name.
Pancho Zorch says that they're a sisterhood of the Who's.
Oh yeah, but they've been around for millennia.
And then Michelle says, "What about the hoo-ha's?"
That's the female version of the Who's.
The who-hers. That's the female side. The who-hers.
Yeah.
All I got to say about it is, thank goodness it is past the 5-minute break, because we would not be able to air this one on the radio stations. Just saying.
Yeah, you'd have been censored for sure.
Yeah. Before Aunt Selene, she'd have been shooting us.
Thank you, Lily.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh heck! Just odd things make me laugh. I can't help it. I've always had a strange sense of humor, I guess.
History can be funny, can it?
Yes, it can.
Oh,
woo! Well, you know what, Larry? He asked, "Are you sure it was men who started the hoo-hoos?"
Well,
actually, until the early 1900s, they didn't allow women.
Wow!
So they had their own hoo-hoos. They didn't need it.
Apparently.
Ooh, okay.
I think Neoma broke brandy on that one.
Okay, so that, I'm just gonna have to research that. Just
wait till you see their symbol, because I'm not kidding. It's a cat.
It's a black cat with its tail in the air, forming the number 9.
Yep. For the snark.
I guess snark is still slightly better than Grand Poobah or whatever they want to call it. Grand Poobah hoo-hoo.
Just called a big giant member.
Going on a membership
I'm
drive.
seriously going to find out if I can become a member. I'm going to tell them, hey, look.
From what I can tell, it's by invitation only.
Yeah, I'll be like, look, somebody invite me. You have
So
to.
is their
know.
membership secret? Like who's in it, or?
I couldn't find any reference to who the active members are.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it
The
probably
only
is,
time
but
I
I'm
found
sure.
people that were confirmed members were with them talking about was Roosevelt and Wilson.
It can't be considered an active member till it's
I've been reading chat and they're cracking me up. I just can't put them on the screen.
Okay, stop.
Chris says, LOL, hoo-hoos all night.
I didn't know it was that kind of show.
Right?
Oh, man.
Thank you, Chris. That's hilarious. That's funny.
Woo, thank
All
you,
right.
Chris. Thank you. Okay.
New subject. New subject.
Quickly, somebody
Good luck.
do anything.
Good luck trying to get this train back on the rails.
I know, right?
See, I always told you, DA, I was the one who was the best at derailing the train.
Yeah.
I really special for it.
I think back when Neoma was still on DAX Machina is the reason we started this shirt. Embrace the topic.
Topic? What topic? We don't need
no topic.
No, not at all.
It's like, let's just call somebody at 7:30. Bring them on. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. I bet you don't do that again, do you?
I'll do it every day of the week.
Right?
I'm sorry. There are just certain things that tickle me, and that happens to be one of them. I just can't envision grown men sitting around in a circle and saying, let's form a club. What will we call it? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. I'm yeah. Woo. I'm trying not to talk about it anymore.
I know, but you can't think of anything else, can you?
Mm-mm.
No, I didn't think
I'm
so.
stuck. My brain's stuck.
Yeah.
My brain's stuck. I don't know what to do with it.
So tell me about your turn to talk. DA and I've talked all night. Tell us about some paranormal stuff that has happened to you guys in the LBL.
Oh, we were going to start that after the break, but here we are 20 minutes later.
Let DA see what he has. Did you have any paranormal stuff happen there?
Other than just weird feelings, I can't really even say that was paranormal. I know when we were in Grand Rivers, we stayed in a resort over there called the Green Turtle Bay, and it was a little cabin we were staying in. But there were campgrounds around us, and even in the town in Grand Rivers, you could see deer in the evenings. You would see turkey, raccoons, squirrels. You saw all kinds of animals. But you cross over to that canal in the northern LBL, I didn't see a single animal in a week. Not even roadkill. I didn't see not one. And the weird thing about LBL is you could feel it. When you crossed over that canal and hit LBL, you could feel the change. It's just a change in the energy, a change in the way it felt. And I was primarily there, one because of the weird stuff that goes on, but I was also wanting to walk the area because I was going to set a book there. And I'm a retired law enforcement, and I identified myself as such to a local deputy in Grand Rivers. And I said, hey, I'm a retired cop. I'm doing research for a book. I'm an author, and explained who I was. And he said, yeah, sure. How can I help you? And I said, well, I want to ask about some of the strange stuff that goes on in the LBL. And he goes, yeah, I don't know anything about that. I said, I'm like I said, I'm not really wanting to dig into anything personal. I just was wanting to hear about maybe some of the disappearances and things like that. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I'm going to tell you, one cop to another, I'd drop it if I were you. And he walked off and wouldn't talk to me anymore.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a similar incident that happened to you, Krista.
This one talked to me. He was willing to tell me everything.
Well, I was talking about when you were all walking out to Hotel California.
Oh, the War and Anna and Michelle, just out of the blue. Several of them were walking to Hotel California, and a park ranger just showed up on foot. That's kind of odd.
Very.
Yeah. Just shows up.
Yeah.
So why are you doing that?
I believe there's cameras and things like that out there on a lot of those roads to nowhere, because there are a lot of roads to nowhere out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's amazing how they can find you really quick.
Yep.
I've seen some of the videos from Hellbent Holler. They'll get back in some of the remote areas of LBL, and then a chopper will start circling them.
Yeah, that's a true story. Yeah.
I've seen that on a few of their videos.
Yeah, like I said, it's amazing how they can find you quickly, that they know you're there.
Yeah.
They
really watch that. They watch that place.
Yeah. And I think there was a lot of people, that I know that's gone out there, and then they see, like you said, the helicopters or park rangers show up to where they're at, and things like that. That's very common. It's almost like certain people are marked, like some of us that are really into it, like, oh, they're here or something, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Kind of weird to me.
When I was running around LBL, the only park ranger I saw was in the visitor center. But I've got a feeling when I go back, I'm probably going to, because I've been very vocal about why I'm going back to LBL. So I would not be shocked if I'm not looking, seeing the same vehicle a lot, or if somebody comes up, hey, what are you doing? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they're looking more so when it's not tourist season. Tourist season, it seems like they're more relaxed, but when it's not, like during the winter time and things like that, it just seems like they're watching anyone that goes in. Mm-hmm. It seems like they know why you're out there and they want to see what you're doing.
Well, I strongly suspect the reason they reintroduced elk and wood bison was to give those things something else to eat besides people.
Agreed. And they're large. You know what I'm saying? They're large animals, and it's not your little typical whitetail. Catherine Gay asked, does DA go alone?
I have. Not the brightest thing I've ever done in my life, and my wife will tell you I'm an idiot for doing it. But yes, I have. But when we go back, I'm gonna be with some like-minded individuals that will undoubtedly have a significant quantity of pew-pews.
How many can outrun you?
A lot of people can outrun me, but if you find me, you're going to find a pile of empty brass where I was at.
Right.
I'm going to be. Might be a meal, but I'll be a spicy one.
Yeah, I hear you. And the thing when we go, next year in the spring, all of us. It seems like every time I went, and not necessarily only to me, but the people I've been with, I've had encounters of some sort, be it paranormal or like the Dogman sighting. I don't feel like it's going to be dull, when we're there.
LBL does not disappoint.
No, it doesn't. And I don't care what you're there looking for. Ghosts or any of it. Ghosts, any of it.
Yeah.
But no matter how much you find.
Yeah.
No matter how much you find, it always holds something back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to see if I can get down to the lake where the city of Birmingham used to be and see if I can see those gravestones sticking up at that time. I wonder if they'd still be visible at that time.
I didn't be low enough, so hopefully when we go, it's not rainy,
that it hasn't rained. Yeah.
You guys know about the ghost town in the lake close to us, don't you?
No.
You've not heard about the ghost town of Old Lynn Creek and Lake of the Ozarks? They say you can still see the lights.
Really?
Yeah, when they built that dam in the 30s, but when they built Bagnell Dam, they went in and evicted multiple towns. And the original town of Lynn Creek, they say you can still drive up to the bluff and look down. And on when the water's clear, like in the wintertime, you can supposedly see the outlines of the buildings. But if you supposedly at night, you can go out there and see lights in the city. There's a whole town down there.
That's
lots of creepy ghost stories from the old town of Lynn Creek.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. And that's down by Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah, it's just outside of Camdenton. There is a town of Lynn Creek right there on the road, but it's not the original town. The original town is at the bottom of Lake of the Ozarks.
Interesting.
Supposedly there are cars down there, old trucks, houses, and a church.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what they said about the city of Birmingham was the same thing. They didn't take out anything. They just flooded it.
My
Yeah.
uncle, before he passed away, was an avid fisherman on Lake of the Ozarks. And he told me a story of not only seeing lights in the water, but hearing weird music.
Yeah. Interesting. Born Not to Run says, is LBL pretty? I've been thinking about backpacking out there, but heard mixed reports of boring trails.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's creepily beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very pretty, but it takes on an entire different atmosphere when the sun goes down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't recommend backpacking anywhere remote without somebody with you. Yeah.
I wouldn't solo camp there. I certainly wouldn't.
No, and I would not suggest going without a pew-pew. For sure.
A pew-pew. Yep, gotta have a pew-pew.
Derek Galloway says Google Map Bagnell Dam. It shows 38 photos. My grandfather helped build that dam.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Really cool. We're going to have to take a road trip.
I'm thinking so. I'm thinking, ooh.
There's a lot of creepy stuff. There's a museum right there by Lynn Creek that's supposed to be haunted as hell, too.
Wow. I'm going
You're speaking my language.
It's full of antiques and relics from the original town.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my. Well, yeah. Okay. So that's got to go on my list of next year to go to.
Well, you're in
that's a pretty short drive for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we will just meet up there.
Yeah, it's maybe an hour and a half from me, if that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that far from me either. I just go straight down 70 and then 54, and it's right there. Derek Galloway asked, does the LBL have a central location? So the LBL is large. It has a central road, which is the Trace, but it's huge. So as far as a central location, no. I guess there's some towns, some of the campgrounds you could say are locations, but as far as a central location, I don't believe so.
If I remember correctly, LBL is listed at over 250,000 acres.
Yeah, It's huge. It's huge.
It stretches most of the state of Kentucky, north to south. Well, half of it at that point, because Kentucky's a little bit up that end. And then it goes down into Tennessee. I'm sorry I laughed so hard I lost my voice. It is pretty massive. I know that when I talk about being, an hour and a half away from it, that's from where you enter it. I can be 2 to 3 hours away from. If I start at the south end and head up, I could be far more than that away from it.
Yeah, and I just live outside of St. Louis in O'Fallon, Missouri, and I'm only about 3 hours away from the LBL. It's not that far from me. And Brandy, she's Southern Missouri, and she's about the same.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
when are we going to go to Hardy, DA?
We need to. Apparently, they have a ghost festival there in the fall now.
Oh, they do.
What? In the Hardy, Arkansas?
Yeah, in Hardy, Arkansas. That is a creepy little town.
yeah,
It is.
When the sun goes down, I swear to God, they roll up the sidewalks. I mean, there's nothing going on in that town once it starts getting dark.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Well, we're coming up to the hour and a half mark, guys. And people usually start falling off.
It's a work night for most people, except me.
Yeah. Yeah, except
Even DA's got to work, I'm sure.
I got to get some writing done.
Yeah, I've got to work tomorrow too. Fun stuff. I'm going to drop your guys' links in the chat again. And
Awesome. Thank you.
Lily Pond has been doing a fantastic job of doing that. So,
I'm sorry.
Got a secret handshake and everything.
Shame on you, Dex.
I didn't. I missed Tex's comment. We'll have to go back.
He said DA's new book.
Now on Amazon.
Oh my God. That's funny.
I have been controlling my laugh for like 15 minutes. I've been chewing my lips off, if you haven't noticed, trying really hard not to laugh. And then he pops that up.
Yeah, I know. I've been reading comments. It's funny. That's funny. Anyway, we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And if you guys, oh my God. So there's a private chat in here. Huh? And did you see that, Neoma?
I'm about to.
You're so cute, Neoma. You okay.
Got one.
Oh, that's hilarious. Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
Please subscribe.
Keeps
to
it
all-
minty fresh.
Oh no.
That's hilarious. So anyway, but we do appreciate everybody. And, this was actually fun tonight. And I'm glad DA
It
brought
was.
up the comment because, it's just, it's made it fun. I hope we didn't embarrass you too much sitting with three women talking about that. So
Nah. If I'd have known that was the direction, I'd have got a net in here on the thing too. She'd been laughing like crazy too.
Right?
yeah, there
She
you go.
would have put in her 2 cents, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
I needed the net in here tonight. She would have been my backup.
For sure.
I get zero slack from her. Oh, she zings me good all the time.
Oh yeah.
Our relationship is built on sarcasm and mutual jokes.
And Chris Nichols, thank you very much.
Thank you
Lily
so much.
Kahn, thank you very much. And
Thank
once again,
you.
Chris, we appreciate that. And Larry Newman for becoming a new member. So tomorrow night we do have Heather Mosier from Small Town Monsters. And
Yes.
we are rescheduling Seth. It'll be sometime in October. I just got to get with Brandy and then with the date, but he suggested October. So we'll have DA on to co-host that one again with us. And thank you, Miss Neoma, for jumping in at the last minute, and DA for not bailing on us because Seth did.
Hey, look, I don't have to work tomorrow. I can drive right over there if you bailed. I'd be like knocking on your door.
So anyway, everybody tune in tomorrow night. DA, your shows are on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central.
Yes, ma'am.
For anybody watch the shows, they're good shows and a bunch of good guys.
Absolutely.
And, they just they're not scripted either. They just
A little off the rails at times.
yes.
This Saturday night we're going to be talking about about certain animals that may not actually be extinct. Some sighting reports of certain megafauna animals that are becoming more and more common.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Well, I'll be home Saturday night, so I'll be in your chat.
Sweet.
And Miss Neoma, what do you have going on?
I am about to release my next book in the next about week or two, 10 days.
Oh.
And it's a collection of short stories. Some of them you can hear the audio version of on my channel. Neoma Finn opened it out. A couple of them you can hear on Dixie Cryptid. And there's a couple that don't appear anywhere yet. You'll find them in the book.
Awesome.
So it'll be released as an ebook and then as an audio book. And then eventually, hopefully, we'll have some physical copies. I'm headed to Montgomery Bell, October 14th. I won't have a booth there, but I will be walking around. So if anybody happens to go there, look around for the short, fat lady with the limp. It'll probably be me. And there's probably a lot of short, fat ladies with the limp around, but my laugh and I do it a lot. So you'll probably hear me before you see me. And then, of course, I just have my channel that I tell stories on. And
Awesome. Good deal. All right. Well, everybody, we will see you all tomorrow night. And DA and Neoma, can you hold on for just a second?
Sure.
All righty. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.